Hi, I'm Ashley Rodriguez, and this is my critical race theory presentation. The experience that I was going to talk about when I first encountered institutionalized racism, and I say encountered because I wasn't the subject of it. I'll get to that in a moment. I was 17, and it was my freshman year of college. It was the first time I had ever spent any real time around people of color. I grew up in a very small town with no other cultures available. My family raised me to respect all cultures, but that was a more conceptual thing because there was no one of any other culture in the area to, enact that experience. So moving to college and spending time amongst different groups was really the first time that multiculturalism became more than just an idea. I was with a group of students that I had been having some classes with. We were having lunch, and there was a flyer in the dorm that for teaching assistant positions. And the flyer indicated that preference would be given to incoming freshmen that had taken AP courses. And I hadn't thought much of it, but a classmate of mine, a black woman, had talked about how the flyer was racist, and I didn't understand. She explained to me that in inner city schools like the one she attended in Detroit, they didn't offer AP classes. The lower socioeconomic class schools that couldn't afford that kind of thing, they didn't offer AP classes. And so whether they meant it to or not, posting a flyer with that requirement was institutionalized racism. The opportunities were not going to be given to minority students because overwhelmingly the likelihood that a minority student had AP classes was much lower than the chance that it would be a white student that got the preference. I wasn't in the victim pool, so I can't consider it institutionalized racism against me, but I was witnessing it. And I will say the fact that it took until 17 years old for me to even witness institutionalized racism and understand the concept and see it in action just demonstrates my own white privilege right there, that for many people that differential event would have happened much earlier in their life. I was in the tail end of the identity versus role confusion stage because I was 17. I was moving into that young adult intimacy versus isolation stage, and I really think that it affected both for me. I was moving to college. I was still trying to determine who I wanted to be, what kind of person I was going to grow into be, and I wanted to not be racist. I wanted to make sure that this was not who I was going to be, that I was going to allow even passive racism. I was also, that intimacy part, I was starting to form meaningful relationships with these people at college. But how can you form a meaningful relationship with someone if you don't understand their basic worldview, if you don't understand where they're coming from and the experiences they have every day? So it really started that learning process for me and letting me be more than just a casual friend and really start to get into her life and sort of put myself in her shoes and you know see the world as she saw it. It helped me define who I am, and it helped our relationship to be more than just superficial. Um, the article on opportunities and application in social work that we read this week is what really made me think of this topic because it talked about transferring whiteness, that um, being white is a powerful thing. It's a value. It's the most valuable thing in our current economy, in our society, and that it's transferred to some minorities for conforming, for becoming more like us. And so the only minority candidates that would have met the criteria for that flyer were the ones that went to either the mostly white schools or the high SES schools, the ones that were more like me, who had backgrounds more like mine than my friend. Um, at the time I considered myself liberal and I wanted to consider it unintentional racism, but I thought there wasn't much that could be done about it. I think I even said something like, "Wow, you make a good point. You should really email that professor and point it out." And I know now what I should have done is use my white privilege and do it myself, bring it up myself, because another element of that institutionalized racism is that the professor might have listened to me. Couldn't be dismissed as just whining because I didn't meet the criteria, which is probably what they would have said about her if she emailed and said, hey, you can't do that just because my school didn't offer AP classes. I met the criteria. I wouldn't have been seen as whining. I should have used that privilege that I have and really owned it and said, this is wrong. You need to change this criteria. It's sort of like at the beginning of the Tim Wise video we watched this week, that he started out the speech saying, I'm not the most knowledgeable expert on this. I'm just the one that they invited to speak on the topic because I'm a white, straight male, this is me, and so I'm allowed to speak on the topic and use that privilege to benefit others. And that's what I should have done. It's not enough to just believe that it's wrong. I should have done something about it instead of suggesting that she did. Now, she forgave me, and I honestly don't know if she ever did email the professor. She obviously didn't get the position, I know, but it was the first time I'd seen it in action, and it really was a catalyst for me. So that's my discussion for this week.